Them babies.
This the ugly ass Brice.
You got me fucked up.
In Florida, a man named Javontee Brice did something no one expected. He didn't just argue with family. He didn't just make threats. He killed them. His own mother, his cousin, and his ex-girlfriend's partner, one after the other, in just a matter of hours. And then he died in a shootout with police at the state line. What happened that day was not a robbery. It was not a gang hit. It wasn't a drug-related crime. It was personal, targeted, and it began with words that many ignored. Javontee went to an apartment where his sister and his ex-girlfriend were. According to police reports, he made a violent threat. He said he was going to kill the ex, but his sister talked him down and he left. No one called the police. No one stopped him. That was the first red flag, the first warning sign. Then he drove to a Motel 6 in Bradenton. Inside that room was his mother, Titimysha Scott. She wasn't alone. Her boyfriend and two little girls were also there. Witnesses say Javontee apologized to his mother before shooting her dead, in front of children, in front of her partner, cold and calculated. After that, he didn't run. He didn't hide. He drove to a cookout in Palmetto, where his cousin, Sacouya Brice, was attending a gathering. When she was walking out, he pulled up and shot her. No argument, no warning, just a bullet. Hours later, he went to another house, this time a different ex-girlfriend's place. But he didn't kill her. Instead, he shot her new boyfriend. Another person connected to his past. Another life taken. 3 people were dead. A community was left shocked. And now, everyone is asking the same thing. What would drive a man to murder people? What's the cause of this? If you're captivated by real crime stories that peel back the layers of truth, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us as we uncover real cases, raise awareness, and give a voice to the voiceless. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now, let's dive in. Javontee Brice was a 28-year-old man from Florida. He lived in Bradenton, a city located on the state's Gulf Coast. Official records list no stable employment or recent school enrollment. His background included multiple connections to the local community, mostly through family members and past relationships. He had a history of domestic issues involving women he dated, though no long-term criminal record had been confirmed at the time of reporting. Brice's known relatives include his mother, Titimysha Scott, and his cousin, Sacouya Brice, both of whom later became his victims. He was also linked to several women through romantic relationships, one of whom he threatened shortly before the killings. Reports suggest he had access to firearms and moved between different residences, sometimes stayed with family or acquaintances. Let's go back to where everything started. The first major sign something was wrong. This wasn't a murder scene yet, but it was the moment Javontee Brice made his intentions clear, a moment that, in hindsight, should have triggered alarms. The location was an apartment in Palmetto, Florida. Inside were 3 people, Javontee Brice's sister and his ex-girlfriend. The specific names of the sister and ex-girlfriend have not been released by police, but they were both individuals Brice knew personally and had past relationships with. According to police reports, Brice arrived at the apartment unannounced. This was not a social visit. He wasn't there to check in or make peace. He came with clear hostility. Once inside, witnesses say he began directing aggressive language toward the ex-girlfriend. He accused her of disrespect, betrayal, and other vague offenses that were not detailed in the report. Then came the turning point. Brice allegedly made a direct threat to kill the ex-girlfriend. His words were clear and intentional. According to the sister's statement to police, Brice said something along the lines of, "I'm going to kill you. You think you can play with me?" He reportedly reached for something in his clothing. The sister believed it might have been a weapon, but no firearm was drawn at that moment. Tension filled the room. The sister quickly intervened, physically positioning herself between Brice and the ex-girlfriend. She raised her voice, telling him to calm down and to think about what he was doing. She reminded him that they were family, that he needed to walk away before things escalated. Brice didn't respond immediately. He stood still for a few seconds, breathing heavily. Then he turned around and walked out of the apartment without saying anything else. He left on his own, got into his car, and drove off. At this point, no one called the police. There were number 911 calls from that apartment after the threat was made. The sister, although alarmed, did not believe Brice would actually follow through. The ex-girlfriend reportedly stayed silent, possibly in shock or confusion. As far as records show, law enforcement only became aware of this incident after murders had already taken place, and the sister came forward with her account. Later, when detectives began piecing together the timeline of Brice's actions, they identified this apartment visit as the first criminal trigger. In legal terms, a threat to kill someone is a serious offense, especially when it's made face-to-face in private setting, but without a weapon drawn or a physical attack, and without a report being filed at the time, there was no police intervention. This lack of response is key, because it allowed Brice to leave that apartment and move on to his next targets without restriction. No warrant was issued, no alert was raised, no one was watching him, and just hours later, he would be involved in multiple fatal shootings. It's important to highlight what was missed here. In cases like this, early threats are often the first warning sign of a larger plan. According to many criminal profiles, individuals who commit family-related murders often begin by testing boundaries. They start with threats, spoken or implied, and observe how those around them react. If nothing happens, they escalate. On the evening of March 6, 2023, Javontee Brice pulled into the parking lot of a Motel 6. Surveillance cameras caught his vehicle entering around 6:40 p.m. He was alone, and there was no sign of struggle or distress at the time. This motel would be the site of the first confirmed homicide in a series of killings that would unfold over the next several hours. Inside room 111, 44-year-old Titimysha Scott, Brice's biological mother, was staying. She was not alone. She was with her boyfriend, whose identity has not been released to public, and two minor girls who were described as young children. One of the children is believed to be related to the family, though police have not confirmed her exact connection. All were inside the room at the time Brice arrived. According to police reports and eyewitness, Brice knocked on the door and was let in without any signs of forced entry or initial conflict. This suggests that Titimysha and her companions were not alarmed by his presence. It's unclear whether Brice had spoken to his mother earlier that day or what his intentions were at the moment he arrived. Once inside the motel room, events moved quickly. Witnesses say Brice and his mother had a short verbal exchange. The exact words were not recorded, but one of the witnesses claims Brice apologized to his mother before pulling out a firearm. He then fired a single shot, striking his mother in the upper torso. She collapsed to the floor. The children in the room reportedly began screaming immediately after the gunfire. At that moment, Brice did not attack the others in the room. He turned, left the scene, and drove off without attempting to conceal his identity or his weapon. The boyfriend called 911 immediately. Responding officers arrived at Motel 6 within minutes, and paramedics pronounced Titimysha Scott dead at the scene. The children and the boyfriend were physically unharmed but severely shaken. Law enforcement launched an immediate manhunt, identifying Brice as the suspect based on survivor statements and the motel security footage. The footage clearly showed Brice entering and exiting the room, matching the description given by the witnesses. He was also known to local law enforcement, which helped speed up identification. In terms of forensic evidence, police recovered a single shell casing from the motel room, and no signs of a struggle were found at the scene. This supports the witness accounts that the murder was premeditated and not a result of any spontaneous argument or escalation. Police also noted that Brice made no effort to clean the scene or evade cameras. Investigators later confirmed that the children inside the room witnessed the killing firsthand. They were taken to a nearby facility for trauma evaluation and held for protective custody, while relatives were contacted. Statements were taken from both the children and the boyfriend, all which align with the physical evidence found in the room. As for motive, police did not publicly release any confirmed reasoning behind why Brice targeted his mother first. However, interviews with family members and neighbors hinted at long-standing issues between Brice and his mother. These claims are unverified, and law enforcement did not speculate during the press briefing. This was not the first incident involving Brice on that day. Earlier, he had made threats to another family member and an ex-girlfriend at an apartment complex. At that time, he was not arrested or detained. No restraining order was issued, and no one reported the threat to law enforcement, which could have possibly prevented what happened at the Motel 6. After leaving the crime scene, Brice continued his spree. Less than 2 hours later, he would go on to kill his cousin, Sacouya Brice, at a cookout in Palmetto, and then later attack another ex-girlfriend's new partner. The murder of his was the first confirmed fatality in the series of 3 killings carried out by Javontee Brice before his death. At 7 p.m., Javontee Brice's car approached the area. He pulled up close to the sidewalk but remained inside his car. According to witness statements gathered by police and reported by Manatee County Sheriff's Office, Sacouya had just stepped out of the cookout to walk towards the street. She was alone as she walked from the yard to the front area. That's when Javontee acted. Without saying a word, he rolled down the window of his car, aimed a firearm, and fired multiple rounds directly at Sacouya Brice. Witnesses heard the loud cracks of gunfire and screams that followed. The entire shooting took just seconds. Sacouya was hit by gunfire and collapsed on the pavement. Multiple calls to 911 were made immediately, and first responders rushed to the scene. Emergency personnel attempted life-saving measures on site. She was then transported to a nearby hospital, but she was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The scene was quickly secured by law enforcement. Witnesses were interviewed. Children were ushered inside homes. The cookout ended in chaos. According to detectives, Sacouya was intentionally targeted. There was no evidence of crossfire or mistaken identity. The shots were aimed with purpose. She was the intended victim. This was not a robbery, and there were no signs of an argument or confrontation prior to the shooting. Authorities noted that Javontee did not exit the vehicle, did not exchange words with anyone, and left the scene immediately after the attack. His vehicle was already identified earlier in connection with the murder of his mother, Titimysha Scott, that had occurred hours before in a Motel 6 in Bradenton. Sacouya Brice was the second confirmed victim in what investigators described as a planned killing spree, carried out by a single individual across multiple locations in Manatee County. The area where the cookout took place was a residential zone, commonly used for community gatherings. Security footage from nearby homes showed the suspect's car circling the block briefly before the shooting occurred. Authorities used this footage to help verify the timeline and establish a pattern in Javontee's movement that day. Neighbors interviewed by police reported seeing a silver vehicle, described as a sedan, idling in the area earlier, but they had not thought much of it. It was only after shots rang out that the presence of the car was connected to something violent. Law enforcement quickly connected the two murders, that of Titimysha Scott and Sacouya Brice, based on witness testimony, surveillance video, and vehicle matches. The pattern of targeting family members raised alarms within the investigative unit. Police later released a statement confirming that Sacouya Brice had no active conflicts or legal issues, and was not involved in any criminal behavior. Her presence at the cookout was routine. According to family members who spoke in interviews later on, she had no knowledge of Javontee's actions earlier that day. The murder of Sacouya Brice added urgency to the police search. An all-points bulletin was issued for the suspect, and surrounding counties were alerted. Law enforcement now had multiple homicide charges, and were considering the suspect armed and extremely dangerous. After murdering his own mother and cousin in two separate, targeted shootings, Javontee Brice did not stop. Instead, he moved on to a third crime scene, the home of another ex-girlfriend. This final incident added yet another victim to the list and gave police more evidence to track Brice's deadly movements across Florida. Shortly after the murder of Sacouya Brice, his cousin, Javontee Brice drove to a home located on the 2300 block of 4th Avenue East. This home belonged to another one of his former girlfriends. The exact time of arrival has not been disclosed in full detail by law enforcement, but witness statements and forensic records confirm that this third incident occurred within a few hours of the first two killings. The residence was occupied at the time. Brice was reportedly aware that his ex-girlfriend had a new partner, and he was the target of this particular visit. Brice's third victim has not been publicly identified by full name in available sources at the time of this report, but he was confirmed to be the new romantic partner of Brice's ex-girlfriend. He was present in the house during Brice's unannounced visit. According to investigators, there were no prior arguments, no warnings, and no verbal altercations before the attack. Brice entered the premises and shot the man, targeting him with lethal intent. He did not harm the ex-girlfriend during the incident. The firearm used in this killing is believed to be the same handgun used in the previous two murders. Eyewitnesses reported hearing gunshots, followed by a vehicle speeding away from a house. The 911 call came in shortly after the incident, and emergency responders found the victim with fatal gunshot wounds. He was declared dead at the scene. Investigators responded quickly to secure the crime scene and collect all physical and digital evidence. The evidence recovered from this third location included surveillance camera footage from a neighboring property showing Brice's vehicle near the house, gunshot residue samples collected from interior surfaces, blood splatter analysis indicating close-range shooting, multiple shell casings, which matched ballistically with earlier murders, footprints found at the rear entry, believed to match Brice's shoe size and tread pattern, a partially recovered cell phone video from a neighbor capturing audio of the gunshots and vehicle departure. Authorities also obtained a digital record of phone activity, confirming Brice's mobile device had pinged cell towers within range of the 4th Avenue East address at the time of the shooting. This geolocation data was used to track his movements in real time and eventually led police toward the Florida-Georgia border. Although the police have not officially declared a motive, the pattern of victims suggests the attack was deliberate and targeted. Brice's actions showed a clear focus on people connected to his personal life, specifically women he had relationships with, and individuals close to them. After committing 3 murders in less than 24 hours, Javontee Brice became a fugitive. Local and state law enforcement agencies quickly shifted into emergency mode. The manhunt for Javontee Brice began immediately after the murder of his cousin, Sacouya Brice, in Palmetto, Florida. By this point, police already had 2 confirmed murders on record, his mother and Sacouya. Ballistics evidence and eyewitness testimony linked Brice to both crime scenes. His vehicle was identified and an alert was issued statewide. June 30th, 2023, morning. Brice had already shot and killed his mother around 5 o'clock. Midday, he then killed his cousin at a family gathering in Palmetto, approximately 25 minutes away from the first crime scene. Early afternoon, law enforcement issued a bolo, be on the lookout, for a gray Nissan Altima believed to be driven by Brice. Evening hours, another shooting was reported, involving Brice killing the new boyfriend of a former romantic partner. This was the third confirmed homicide within the same day. Night, the bolo was extended to surrounding states, including Georgia, as Brice was believed to be heading northbound via I-75. Law enforcement created a multi-agency task force, which included the Florida Highway Patrol, local sheriff departments, and the U.S. Marshal Service. Brice's digital footprints, phone pings, vehicle plate readers, and surveillance were used to triangulate his route. Officials warned the public that he was armed and dangerous. Hours after the final homicide, automatic license plate readers in the Tallahassee area picked up the gray Nissan Altima. This confirmed that Brice was moving toward the Florida-Georgia state line on Interstate 75. Roughly 2:30 a.m. on July 1st, 2023, Georgia State Patrol, Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, Florida Highway Patrol, and federal agents from the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force. Using real-time GPS data and aerial surveillance, officers coordinated a strategic roadblock. A pursuit began when Brice refused to stop for flashing lights. He accelerated, weaving through traffic and exiting the highway briefly before re-entering. At this point, officers initiated a precision immobilization technique to spin out the vehicle. The Nissan Altima was forced into a stop near mile marker 5, just after crossing into Georgia territory. Law enforcement officers quickly surrounded the car from multiple angles. Once stopped, officers issued verbal commands. According to official incident reports, Brice did not exit the vehicle or comply. Instead, he fired a weapon from inside the car. Officers responded with return fire. Multiple units opened fire from safe positions behind patrol vehicles and armored shields. The exchange lasted approximately 15 to 20 seconds, based on body cam timestamps and 911 recordings. There was no hostage present and no other civilians in the direct vicinity. Brice was struck multiple times during the exchange. Officers approached the vehicle cautiously after confirming no gunfire for over 30 seconds. Once they reached the driver's side door, they found Brice slumped over the steering wheel. Emergency medical technicians on scene checked for vital signs and confirmed he was dead at the scene. No officers were injured in the shootout. The Lowndes County Coroner's Office later released the official cause of death: multiple gunshot wounds to the upper torso and head. A full autopsy was conducted at the Georgia Bureau of Investigation Crime Lab. Number of shots fired by police: 30 rounds total. Shots fired by Brice: at least 2 confirmed from the recovered shell casings inside the vehicle. Body cam footage: under review and not publicly released at the time of reporting. Weapon recovered: 9mm handgun with a partially loaded magazine. Toxicology reports were pending at the time of the announcement, but no drugs or alcohol were found in plain view in the vehicle. The weapon had not been reported stolen and was legally unregistered. Brice's death officially ended the manhunt that lasted less than 24 hours. Direct public statements from the family were limited, but some relatives posted on social media. One user, identified herself as a cousin of both Sacouya and Javontee, wrote the following on her public Facebook page: "Please don't call or ask what happened. We're trying to process everything. Pray for the kids that had to witness this." Another family friend posted on Instagram stories a photo collage of the victims with the caption, "Our hearts are broken. This is not the way things were supposed to go. Keep the family in your prayers." This was later screenshotted and reposted in several Facebook community groups tied to Manatee County. If this story gripped your heart and left you questioning the truth, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with others who need to hear it. For more chilling true crime stories that dive deep into the mysteries behind these tragedies, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest updates, investigations, and thought-provoking discussions. Thank you for being part of this journey with us as we uncover the truth and seek justice. Together, we can make a difference. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next one.